Ben Smith. I'd like to thank the Collin College Young Conservatives for giving us this opportunity, and the CBA as well. I'm running for judge of the 308th District Court. A little bit about myself. I'm married almost 10 years now. I've got two little boys, Jackson and Lincoln. They're 6 and 16 months. I've been a prosecutor for 8 years and am now in private practice. While a prosecutor, I served as a misdemeanor prosecutor, I served as a chief misdemeanor prosecutor, then as a felony prosecutor, then as a chief felony prosecutor, second assistant DA, chief of the misdemeanor division, and lastly as chief of the special prosecution division, which is the public integrity division of the DA's office before I resigned. I'm the only candidate in this race that has handled murder cases, that has handled capital murder cases, that has handled the most serious felonies committed against children. And I believe that that kind of experience is very important if you're going to be a district judge in this county. Those cases have to be gotten right the first time. You know, in a family law case, a judge has continuing jurisdiction. And if circumstances change, orders can be modified, the judge can correct mistakes and correct errors. In a felony prosecution, if a judge excludes evidence that should have been admitted or admits evidence that should have been excluded and a guilty person is acquitted, there's no fixing that. A judge has to know what he's doing when he's dealing with those types of cases. And I'm the only candidate in this race that has that experience. So I'd ask for your support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jody Johnson, and I'm an SMU grad. I've been practicing law for 28 years. I've served as a trial lawyer that entire time, practicing in both civil and family law. And this court is a court that serves all of the citizens of Collin County. It hears civil, family, and criminal cases, and about 85% of what it hears is both civil and family law. I am very passionate about family law. Divorce touches just about every adult and child in this county. And I do disagree with the statement that you have a chance to correct errors in divorce. You do not. A final decision is final, and the ruling that the judge makes has serious impact on the children of this county. I'm the only candidate who's board certified in family law, and you know, when I go into court with clients and when I talk out in the community, what clients really want to know is whether their judge knows what they're doing and whether or not they're going to listen to them, and I will do that. I also have a passion about whatever job I take on. If you look at my website, you'll see that I'm the only candidate who's been peer-reviewed numerous times by my colleagues. I've been named Best Lawyers in America, Texas Super Lawyer, Top 50 Women, 50 women lawyers in Texas, and I'm most proud of my AV rating. If you go to my website, you'll be able to get more information about that, but what that means is that my colleagues have determined that I was worthy of the highest rating for both my legal competence and my ethics. I've got a 28-year track record as an outstanding lawyer, and I will take that commitment to the bench. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chip Jarvis. I'm also running for the 380th Judicial District Bench. I've been a practicing attorney for 15 years. During that time, I have practiced in all 3 areas that this court will handle: family, criminal, and civil. My practice has taken me from a large medical malpractice insurance defense firm in the 90s to my own firm, in which me and 2 other attorneys represented people in both criminal, family, and civil cases, to enlisting in the military after September 11th as an infantry soldier, not a Marine necessarily, but an Army man, and asked by my superiors to become a JAG officer. When I returned, I prosecuted for Collin County, made it to a felony level prosecutor, left, and went back to private practice where I represented folks primarily in family law matters since 2008. I am the only candidate who has practiced criminal law, both from the misdemeanor level to the felony level, and prosecuted that same level. I'm the only candidate who's taken family law cases to verdict and appeal, and lastly, who's taken civil cases to verdicts in jury trials and civil trials to the court. I practice all three areas. That's major because this court is a general jurisdiction court. And I will tell you, and believe me, the citizens of our county believe that all cases that they're involved with are important. Not just the criminal cases, not just the family cases, and not just the civil cases. When you are in court, that is the most important case. And ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your support and your vote, and I believe that the experience matters, and I believe the breadth of experience matters. Chip Jarvis, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry Green, and I am also a candidate for the 380th Judicial District Court. A little bit about myself. I lived in Houston for over 20 years, transferred here to the North Dallas area in 2002, so I've been here approximately 10 years. I have 2 boys, and I also have a grandson who serves as my bailiff of my campaign. You may have met him the other night at our Republican event that we had. I'm a church member of Preston Trail Community Church, where I serve on their breeding committee. And you may ask yourself, why vote for me? The most important reason is for experience and my qualifications, and also because I'm a public servant. Let's talk about experience. As Chip said, this is a general jurisdiction court. You're not going to find every one of us, or any of us that are sitting up here today talking to you. We have experience in all 3 areas, and we're not board certified in all 3 areas. So you're going to have to pick the candidate which has the most experience in as many areas as we have, and that's 3. This court here is 55% family law cases, 35% civil trial cases, and the other less than 10% are the criminal cases. I worked at Vincent Elkins, a 400-man law firm, as a paralegal, clerked and interned there, and went to law school for 10 years. I've also been a trial lawyer for 22 years, so I have almost 32 years of experience in the legal arena. I've only done litigation. I also am the only one in my court that's running in this particular bench and has tried cases in the federal court level. So not only do they have experience in the state court level, I have experience in the federal level when I've tried a personal injury cases on the civil side. I'm also licensed in the Fifth Court of Appeals out of New Orleans, Fifth Circuit in New Orleans, and I'm the only one sitting up here today who's licensed in the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. I believe in excellence, and I understand the law, and I know the law. I'm also a public servant. I believe in the Rotary motto, service above self. I serve as a CPS board appointed by Judge Keith Self and the county commissioners, where I've sat for 2 years. That hears family violence cases. That's the hardest cases to hear. Not only that, I was a teen court judge for over 4 years here in Plano. And after your support, Terry Green.
Start with Judge Smith. What does it mean that we are a nation of law, not of men?
I think that question goes to the very heart of what separates a judge from a legislator. We are bound by the rule of law. We are not bound by the rule of judges, and I think that many judges in our country have gone astray from that principle. Being bound by the rule of law means that we're all on notice about what the law is. Everybody is affected by the same law in the same manner. We're all on notice of that. We all know how to behave. We know what the consequences are if we behave differently than what is permitted by the law. When a judge is allowed to manipulate the law and not follow it as written, but manipulate it in order to achieve a result that he believes is right, then that is when we are no longer a nation bound by the rule of law, but by the rule of judges or the rule of men.
Well, I believe that what that means is that we have a very organized and civil way of resolving disputes in our country, and I'm extremely proud of that. We don't have people fighting in the streets here to resolve their disputes. They have a courthouse to come to, and I think it's very important that they know that when they come to the courthouse that the judge is going to know the law and follow it and apply it fairly to every citizen, no matter how powerful they are, how weak they are, how much money they have, the color of their skin, the religion, anything. Everyone will be treated the same when they come to our courts.
Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, North Vietnam, China, Somalia. Those are countries that didn't believe in the rule of law, but believed in the rule of man. And that's what required a lot of these gentlemen and fine ladies out here to have to serve this country. The rule of law is we are all equal. It applies to us equally. And no one walks into our courts and should be allowed to be treated differently than any other citizen out here. A law degree, being elected a judge, being appointed a judge should be irrelevant. We, as citizens of Collin County, state of Texas, and the United States of America, we have the right to walk into our courts, walk our streets, and be treated the same. And that's the reason we fight for this. And that's the principle that any of us have served and all you that support us understand. Thank you.
The rule of law is actually established by the Constitution, the statutes, what you call the Black Law Statute, and also case law. And it's separate and apart from what the rule of man is. The rule of man is what a judge wants, what he desires, the lobbyists want, how they are influencing judges and their decisions. So it's two separate entities. If you let the rule of man influence the rule of law, then you're going to have chaos. You're not going to have a court that's going to be run as it should be run. And that is with blinders on, to follow what the law is, to follow what the statute says, to follow what the cases are. Everyone that comes into my court, whether you are Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Tea Party individual, you're all going to be treated equal because I have to follow the rule of law. I cannot, based on what I feel in my heart or what I think in my head, to change it. I have to follow the rule of law.
Sorry, I was enjoying the conversation. The next question to Jody. To what extent do you believe that a judge should or should not defer to the actions of the legislature?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. I mean, we're bound by the statutes that the legislature promulgates, and at the district court level, we are not passing judgment on them. We are not determining their constitutionality. That's what the higher courts are for. So I believe that we, whatever those laws are, that's what we follow. Our personal decisions do not impact that. And you know, that'll be a little bit of a change becoming a judge. As a private practitioner, I have the privilege of deciding who I represent and who I don't represent. And there are certain things out there where I say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this. But if I take this job, I have to be willing to do the hard work and hear those cases and apply the laws that's written.
Never.
I think we should defer to the legislature only if I had a question or something came up that involved our courts. For example, whether or not we should have specialized courts as opposed to general jurisdiction courts. I may want to defer or ask them a question regarding that, but any other time I would say no.
I may be wrong, but I feel like I'm maybe interpreting the question a little bit differently. In my mind, what you're asking is when should I defer to the acts of the legislature? And in my mind, the answer is almost completely. The Constitution is supreme, and that's why I say almost. But the act of the legislature is the law, and I'm going to apply the law that the legislature passed.
Okay, next question. We're going to start with Mr. Jarvis. Do judges have an obligation to improve public understanding of the courts? If so, how should they carry out that obligation?
I think that we absolutely have an obligation to the citizens. I think the best way to ensure that our citizens know that our courts are rule of law versus rule of man, using another question, is to ensure that they know they're open and they understand the process. I think that we're lucky in this county that we have judges who follow that principle. And I've seen it myself, I hear about it myself, so they raise a high standard for those of us up here wanting to join their ranks. Going to schools, lecturing those folks, coming to college campuses like yourself, speaking with folks like yourself, other citizens, letting you know that being a judge or an attorney isn't some birthright. It doesn't make you better or special. It is something you decided to do, and you need to hold that in high esteem and give back. And giving back is by going out to the community and just letting them see you.
I think that the code of ethics puts a very big restraint. I think the other district judges in the room can agree with me. They're kind of constrained on what you can and can't do in public. However, I think if you are invited to come out and speak, I think that you could talk about procedures, how the court operates and how many cases you may have in court, but not specify and talk about a particular case. But I think it is imperative that a judge is out in the community and is heard, is seen, so that we know what they are and who they are and what they do. As far as talking about specifics, I think that they would not be able to do such a thing. I think the judges also should attend the CLE, keep up to date on what the law is, and if they want to talk about that, then that's fine. But again, that's talking about procedures. So I think that would be my answer.
Well, judges are just people, they're servants, and they're elected officials, and they're accountable to the public. And so I think there is an obligation on the part of judges to make the public aware of what's going on in their courtroom, what's going on in our criminal justice system, and our justice system in Collin County. There are a lot of issues that happen in the courtroom that affect taxpayers, like for example, our jail population, which averages 1,000 people at any given day at $62 a day per inmate per day. That's more than $22 million a year. And a lot of the inmates in our jail are awaiting felony trials, and they're sitting in our jail for between 1 to 2 years, waiting on their trial. And I think that those are important issues. I think that indigent defense, the amount of money that taxpayers spend for the defense of indigent criminal defendants,